I recently faced something no household should ever endure. Our residence was invaded during the night by HOA enforcement officers dressed in complete tactical equipment, all because of a planned infraction. My neighbor was smiling as if she'd prevented a national crisis, but she was unaware that my spouse is a Green Beret marksman. Allow me to begin at the start. Before we continue, please tell me your location today. Tactical footwear creates a distinctive sound on tile flooring, not pounding, not sprinting, but this muted, consistent beat, weighty and unyielding, like someone entering your residence already certain they won't leave without conflict. I hadn't experienced that sound since departing the Navy, so when it resonated through the corridor inside our home, I didn't question whether Marie was correct. She already was. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. This entire situation began with a lavender plant, not a shrub, not an overgrowth, just one potted lavender in a rust-colored clay container positioned beside our mailbox. Marie planted it the day after we relocated, claiming it made the residence feel inhabited and tranquil. I believed we'd finally discovered a place to breathe easily, secure, stable, no disturbances, no relocations, just morning coffee on the veranda and neighbors who acknowledged us. Marie mentioned the roofline provided clear visibility of all 4 boundaries. I assumed she meant it had attractive gutters. Our son didn't even pretend to be interested as long as the internet reached his bedroom and the refrigerator remained full. He was content. Within 1 week, the letter arrived, no postage, no envelope, just slipped beneath our entrance with surgical accuracy. White paper, bold text, the type of message that doesn't request entry, it simply enters. Notice of violation HOA Regulation 12, unauthorized plan arrangement, lavender. Marie read it, blinked once and declared, "They're probing." I suggested, "You mean they're allergic to purple?" She didn't find it amusing. "They're testing the perimeter." Will shouted from the kitchen, "Wait, are we in trouble for a plant? That's like being arrested for possessing a salad." I told him it was nothing, just a flower. Marie remained silent. We disregarded the letter. The second one arrived 2 days later, this one including a photograph, black and white, our porch, our mailbox, the lavender in complete view. It was captured at night. Marie attached it to the refrigerator like a wanted notice. "Now they're observing." I told her to dismiss it. "It's a homeowners association, not an intelligence agency." She replied, "You're confusing the two." Then Karen appeared, no knock, no warning. She simply materialized one morning like a bitter specter in a beige polo shirt, clipboard, visor too tight by 2 inches. "Good morning," she chirped. "I'm here to assist you in resolving your non-compliance." Marie smiled. "I didn't realize we were at war." Karen ignored her. "Lavender isn't on the approved species list. It creates visual inconsistency and may attract stinging insects. That's a liability risk." I opened my mouth to respond. Karen raised her hand like a traffic officer and said, "The board has already decided." Marie didn't hesitate. "Well, let me know when the board sends someone taller than your clipboard." Karen blinked just once, then turned and departed like she'd just sentenced us to exile. That evening, Marie initiated the first drill. Will stood in the backyard wearing a bicycle helmet and holding a garden rake like it might attack him. "Are you serious?" Marie tossed him a pool noodle. "Disarm the perimeter. Roll, scan, sweep," he groaned. "This isn't a war zone, it's a backyard." She didn't even glance at him. So was Kandahar. I watched from the porch, feeling like I was observing her from a distance I couldn't bridge. Will finally erupted. "Why are we doing this? This isn't normal." Marie stopped. "Neither is surveillance." Will stared at her. "So did I." She turned away before we could respond. We didn't argue. Then the third letter came with a fine. The fourth stated, "Enforcement pending." The fifth, a red sticker on our front door that read, "Final review." That night Marie opened the basement and retrieved a black case I hadn't seen since we met. She didn't open it, she didn't need to. I stood in the hallway and thought about all the times she'd protected other people, her squad, her intel crew, sometimes me, but no one ever taught her how to let someone else shield her. And now our son was watching her step forward, watching me hang back. Then came the silence, the kind of quiet that occurs before something shatters. The dog stopped barking. The streetlights buzzed once and flickered out. The hallway light dimmed, then steadied. I took one step toward the front door, and that's when I heard it, boots. 3 pairs, heavy, confident. They weren't stomping, they weren't rushing, they were just walking. They didn't knock, they didn't ask, they just stepped into our front yard like it already belonged to them. Marie said initially, "They're not professionals." I was crouched behind the curtain, watching them spread out across the lawn. 3 men. Uniforms too clean, boots too new, moving like they were following a YouTube tutorial on how to intimidate without authority. Marie stood in the hallway, arms folded, posture loose, but her eyes were locked in. Will, halfway down the stairs, held his phone like a weapon, recording. Good, at least one of us was thinking tactically. "I think one of them is wearing knee pads," I whispered. Marie didn't laugh. "He's the breacher. Look at how he's scanning the base of the door, checking for kickback clearance." I stared at her, jaw tight. "He's here to kick in the door. If someone gives the go," she said. "They're not here for conversation." She turned and started walking slow and silent toward the mudroom, toward her boots. I stepped into her path. "Wait, shouldn't we, I don't know, call someone?" She looked at me, calm, not cold, but the kind of calm you don't argue with. "John, if you're gonna try and stop me, pick a better moment." I stepped aside. The first knock came like a challenge, 3 sharp raps, precise, not loud, just assertive enough to make you feel like you were late to your own punishment. Will flinched. Marie didn't. I opened the door slowly. They didn't introduce themselves, didn't flash identification, just stood there, 3 broad chests, blank expressions, and 1 clipboard sandwiched under a forearm like a contract with consequences. "Good afternoon," the lead one said. You are in active violation of HOA Regulation 12.4. We're here to initiate final compliance procedures. He said it like a police officer but moved like a mall security guard with delusions of grandeur. I tried to speak, got as far as "Are you?" Marie stepped out past me, just walked into the middle of them, sleeves rolled, hair back like it was a Tuesday. I couldn't decide if I was proud or terrified. "Final procedures?" she asked, tilting her head. That's a big phrase for a man wearing a fake patch and knockoff Oakleys. The guy blinked. His partner, the one with the big belt and nervous fingers, adjusted slightly toward the flower bed. The third one veered to the driveway, angling wide. "They're boxing us in," Marie murmured, flanking from the east. "Watch his hands." "Excuse me," Clipboard said, trying to regain control. Marie didn't break eye contact. "I was just wondering how long you practiced this little dance. Did you rehearse the clipboard handoff because your transitions need work?" He flushed. "Failure to evacuate will escalate the process." "What process?" she asked. "The one where you get filmed failing to unholster a taser before being zip-tied to a mailbox." And just like that, she was gone. Not literally, she just moved quiet, fast, one step backward into the hedges, gone like a puff of smoke. The men reacted too late. One spun, yanked out his radio, barked something about backup. The other scanned the porch, maybe looking for me, maybe for Marie. Then the sprinklers exploded, but not with water. Chalk, white clouds shot upward like dust bombs, non-toxic but blinding. Marie had retrofitted the irrigation system last week. I'd thought she was trying to conserve water. Two of the men staggered, choking, coughing, eyes red. The third raised a taser, too slow. Marie dropped from the tree limb like a panther, hit him square in the back. His knees buckled. The taser clattered across the grass. Will gasped. I heard him whisper. "Mom." Marie didn't answer. She was already moving. She hit the second guy hard, disarmed, spun, zipped, tied him with one clean motion like she'd done it 100 times. She probably had. The first guy backed up fast, hands up, chalk still floating around him like smoke in a nightclub. "We're HOA contractors." He sputtered. "Listen." Marie stepped closer. He flinched before she even touched him. She just reached slowly and pulled the clipboard from his arm. He didn't resist. She flipped it open, thumbed through the top pages. Her jaw didn't move, but her grip tightened. "John," she said, that tone no hesitation, just warning. I walked up beside her. My hands were shaking, just slightly, not from fear exactly, from the slow crawling realization that I was behind again. The clipboard wasn't a checklist, it was a field brief. Coordinates, satellite photos, yard layouts, timestamps, notes in the margins about when Marie watered the lavender, when Will took out the trash, when I went for groceries, what route I took, even what time I usually left the porch to lock the back gate. Then, at the bottom, Phase 1 contact. Phase 2 removal. Phase 3 asset recovery. Marie exhaled just once. Will walked up slowly, eyes wide set. "What?" Marie didn't look up. "They've been tracking us for weeks." Will looked at me. "Why?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. Because I'd been too busy believing this wasn't real. We sat them all down on the porch. Marie stripped their radios and weapons, dumped everything into the garden bucket by the steps. Will helped wordlessly. I saw it in his eyes, the shift. This wasn't pretend anymore. Marie laid the clipboard on the table like evidence in a trial. "They weren't the lead team," she said. I nodded. "This was reconnaissance." She stared toward the end of the street where the sun had started to dip behind the oaks. She wasn't breathing hard. She was calculating. Then she looked at me, not scared, angry. And underneath that, steady, like she'd already mapped out Phase 4. I finally looked at the man slumped by the flower bed, covered in chalk, still wheezing. We hadn't just been warned, we'd been targeted. And the real strike, it hadn't started yet. Whoever sent them wasn't coming for compliance. They were coming for control. And Marie was about to make them regret the schedule. 3 zip-tied men on our porch wasn't a victory, not to Marie. To her it was reconnaissance, a warm-up, a pressure test. She didn't celebrate. She analyzed. While I was still pacing the kitchen, trying to stop my hands from shaking, and Will was trying to lure our dog away from the chalk-covered guy in the flower bed, Marie was at the dining room table, already 10 moves ahead. She spread out the clipboard like a war map. Next to it her laptop, a legal pad, and the original HOA welcome packet, the one Karen had dropped off weeks ago, all smiles and sanctimony. Marie pointed at a contractor ID code. "This number doesn't match the state registry." I squinted. "That's bad, right? It's fake. This company doesn't exist outside the HOA records." She tapped the HOA ledger. "Karen's been rerouting dues, neighborhood fees into this. Karen has a shell company." I said. "Karen has a war chest." Will leaned in from across the table. "Like money laundering?" "She's using HOA funds to pay for private security, surveillance, tactical uniforms, non-traceable enforcement." He blinked. "That's not normal." I sat down hard. "We need to call someone. The actual police." Marie was already writing a list. We didn't sleep that night. Marie dove headfirst into the Chase server, no hesitation. Just keystrokes and search filters and an expression like she was back on an operation deep in hostile territory. Will hovered behind her like a caffeinated intern, occasionally helping, occasionally locking himself out of the Wi-Fi. I stayed quiet because every time I opened my mouth, I realized how little I knew about the world my wife had spent 15 years surviving in, and how badly I'd underestimated what she was still capable of. She pulled up a PDF. "Look at this budget proposal from 4 months ago. Karen pushes through a new charter clause, expanded security oversight authority. No oversight, no cap." She gave herself a blank check. I said. Marie clicked through more files. Sentinel Grove, that's who those guys were. Karen's hired muscle. Another file, then another. I watched her scroll faster, her breath caught just slightly. "John," she said, pointing to a redacted entry marked R47, rapid response event. I asked. "Look at the board notes." That's the designation for forced removals. She's done this before. One by one we found the reports. Lot 29 was listed as home corporate. Lot 47 was eviction escalation authorized. Lot 51 was noise complaint resolved via perimeter reset. They made it sound sterile, like data entry, like it wasn't real families. Marie read one aloud. Her voice didn't even crack, just went flat. Security team executed breach protocol at 06:30 hours. Property secured by noon. Breach protocol, I muttered. She's running tactical simulations on real people? She's testing escalation? Marie said, gauging how far she can go before someone fights back. And if no one does? Marie closed the laptop. Then she takes it all. That morning we walked the neighborhood, not for exercise, not for fresh air, for intelligence. And you know what? It felt different, like the houses knew we knew. One neighbor paused while watering her roses, watched us for 2 seconds too long. Another pulled his shades closed just as we passed. Will noticed the dog that always barked at us was silent. Then we started seeing the signs. Yard gnomes with tiny black lens glints. Stickers with QR codes hidden behind vote for HOA treasurer flyers. Security decals slapped on fences that linked to dead websites. Will was the one who spotted the van, black, no plates, parked 2 blocks over, tinted front to back. Inside wrappers, fast food bags, and a plastic folder marked HOA field zone. Marie took photos of everything, angle, timestamp, tire tread. Back at home, a new flyer had been pushed through the slats of our front gate, printed in all caps, serif like a propaganda poster. NHBROUNSEVRTY. TCAS in no Kobizi Omer Zeman. I mean, Marie held it with 2 fingers like it was radioactive. Will looked at us. So is this like a coup? Marie looked at me. It is now, I said. And if this was a coup, then Karen wasn't just the face of it, she was the general. And we were now living behind enemy lines. We should have known something was approaching when the block got too quiet. Too early, not peaceful quiet, not holiday quiet, just off. The kind of quiet that makes your stomach tighten before your brain catches up. No sprinklers, no garage doors humming open, no kids screaming over whose turn it was on the swing set. Just stillness. Marie paused with the knife in her hand. She was mid-chop on a pile of sweet potatoes, her head tilted slightly. Asked, "What's wrong?" She didn't answer. She wiped her hands, tied her hair up, and headed for the porch without another word. That was the first sign. The second was the smell, smoke and sweet sauce drifting across the lawn like it had a message to deliver. Grilled meat, charcoal smelled good, too good. Will peered out the window. Is there a party across the street? I joined him. Folding tables, plastic chairs, gingham cloth flapping in the breeze, red, white and blue bunting. Karen in full display, flipping burgers with one hand and talking to a small crowd with the other. I said, "We didn't get an invite." Marie appeared behind us. "That's because we're not supposed to be part of this show." I turned. "What show?" She nodded toward the table. "This isn't a barbecue, it's a broadcast. We ate on the porch anyway out of defiance, I think. Chicken, rice." I poured iced tea like it was some kind of normalcy spell. That's when we heard it, high-pitched, metallic, close, a buzz above the rooftops. Marie's eyes tracked upward instantly. There it is. The drone was slick, matte black, 6 rotors, blinking red lens, not a hobby drone, military style, custom build, carbon frame, precision hover. It wasn't flying, it was watching. Will narrowed his eyes. "That's following us." "No," Marie said. I stood. "This is insane. We're being filmed now?" "It's more than that," she replied. "It's logging behavior, pattern matching. It's not surveillance, it's profiling." The drone inched lower, red lens spinning. A second light blinked green underneath, then blue. "Audio sync?" Will's voice dropped. "It's listening." Would across the street, Karen raised her solo cup toward us like a queen making a toast. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Then she turned back to her guests, laughed at something, and kept flipping burgers. A few of them looked our way, just briefly, then looked away like they hadn't. I stepped in front of Marie. "Maybe we go back inside?" She stepped around me. "You can." I hesitated. She wasn't being reckless, she was making a point. Marie stepped forward to the edge of the porch and stared at the drone. Didn't blink, didn't move. The drone adjusted its lens, tracked her exact movement inch by inch. Then the porch light flickered once, twice. My phone buzzed, then cut out, dead signal. Will's screen froze, no service. "No, we there testing blackout thresholds," Marie said. "Electronic isolation, that's next in the escalation chain." I was about to respond when I heard a second buzz, a smaller, closer. The garden drone zipped out from under the arbor like a hornet, sleeker, coyote fast. Marie moved first. She grabbed the rake off the porch like as a baton and stepped sideways. Her stance changed, low, balanced. She waited. The drone dropped into range, scanning. Marie's arms moved in a blur, one swing, direct impact. The drone crumpled midair and slammed into the roses. Will let out a half laugh, half gasp. "Holy," Marie said, already sitting back down. The main drone backed off, wavered midair, then zipped upward, high over the rooftops until it vanished from view. I looked across the street. Karen was still smiling, but her crowd was thinning. Someone gathered their paper plate and whispered to their spouse. Another dad yanked his kid out of the bounce house with a stiff smile. A woman stepped away to take a phone call that didn't look urgent. One guy, the one who usually made dad jokes at the mailbox, caught my eye for a second, then quickly looked away. "They saw it," I muttered. "They're calculating," Marie replied. "What happens now?" She cut another bite of chicken, completely calm. "No, Karen watches to see who backs her up and who doesn't." Will stood and walked to the mailbox. He was gone maybe a minute. Came back. "HOA UNAs HARUSTY. TOC Bo Dubai Sup Harmon Evit Priu Halarmayasures." It was printed in the same typeface as the last one, same layout, no name, no HA logo, just a red triangle stamped at the bottom with 2 words "Chess to go over Yuan." He flipped it over, blank on the back, no contact info, just static menace. Where'd you get it? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he nodded across the street. The Jacksons' mailbox. The Jacksons, the ones who'd given him leftover cupcakes last weekend, who had a welcome mat that said, "This house runs on coffee and love," and "Live Laugh Love" signs on the walls. I took the flyer and stared at it like it might bite. "This isn't just about getting rid of us," I said. Marie nodded. "It's about making us the example." And if that flyer was phase 2, then phase 3 wasn't going to come with warnings. It was going to come with noise. The knock on my door wasn't a knock, it was a stopwatch hitting hardwood. Click, plastic, final. Marie stood there in boots and a tactical shirt, no greeting, no coffee, no context. She pointed to the table. "You've got 5 minutes." "Where?" "Boots too?" Will looked up from his phone. "Wet map. Are we going hiking or?" Marie didn't even glance at him. "You're late." She turned and walked out without a single wasted motion, like it was just another operation. I stared at the map she left behind. Backyard grid lines, obstacle markers, pressure zones. My name scribbled on 3 corners, Will's on 5. Will looked over my shoulder. "Is this real? Like?" "She's always serious," I said, lacing my boots. "But now it's war serious," Will groaned. "I was gonna sleep in." I smiled barely. So was freedom. Outside, the yard had changed overnight. Tarp tunnels zigzagged across the flower beds, wire obstacle paths, barrels stacked into walls, a garden hose coiled through a wheelbarrow like a makeshift minefield. "This looks like Minecraft," Will muttered. "If Minecraft hated you." Marie pointed to the start. "This is your road." Will blinked. "What if I mess up?" Marie handed him a PVC pipe. "Then you learn." Drill 1 started with a tripwire, literal. She'd rigged a garden rake to fall if he stepped wrong. He didn't see it. It caught his shin hard. "Ah!" "Serious set," she said. "Try again." Drill 2 was worse, a balance beam over the koi pond. Yes, the actual koi pond he fell in. Marie didn't laugh. Neither did I, because I was watching something else. Will getting mad. By the 3rd drill he was soaked, muddy, limping, and red-faced. "This is insane," he yelled, voice cracking. "It's not real. It's just a plant. Why do I have to crawl through mud for lavender?" Marie turned slowly. "You think this is about flowers?" Will stood, fists balled, breathing like a winded dog. "You're acting like this is your war zone again." "But it's not. It's my backyard." That stopped her for a beat. Then she walked up to him, not fast, not aggressive. She pointed to the mud on his knees, the tear in his shirt. "You think I want this? You think I like making you suffer in your own yard?" Will didn't answer. Marie's voice was low, steady. "I'm doing this because I don't want the first time you fight to be the last." Silence. And then, quietly, "I just wanted to be a normal kid." Marie's eyes softened. "And I wanted a normal life. But this isn't that life, Will. Not anymore." She backed off, let it sit, then she pointed at the line again. "Do it one more time." And this time he did. No backtalk, no eye roll, just motion, fast, fluid, quiet. By the 5th drill he hit the low crawl like a soldier. He didn't flinch when the tarp snapped. He grabbed the Intel tennis ball and rolled behind the planter. Marie raised a brow. Clean pull. He exhaled loud, less winded than before. At lunch we sat in silence. The porch creaked beneath us. Will's shirt clung to his back. He'd scraped his arm and his cheeks were red from sun and effort. I handed him a bottle of water. He took it without a word. Marie finally spoke. "You adapted." Will chewed his sandwich slowly. "You're not going to say good job, are you?" "No," she said. "Not until we've survived something." After lunch she gave me a task. "Here," she said, handing me a drone remote. "You're controlling the grid reset. If they breach the west fence you trigger fallback protocols." My eyebrows raised. "You sure? You've been narrating long enough. Time to participate." That hit harder than it should have, but it felt right. Later that day Will found us wiring a new sensor into the gutter. "So are we like preppers now?" Marie glanced at him. "We're the line between normal and controlled." Will nodded like he almost understood. That night, we stood in the yard, the drills were done. The air was still. The yard glowed with silent green lights like fireflies under surveillance. I looked at Marie, at Will. We weren't a unit anymore. We were a team. Will leaned against the porch rail. "What if they come tonight?" So I said, "Then they'll see what preparation looks like." At 2:41 a.m., the green turned red. No sirens, no shouts, just the sudden knowledge that phase 3 had begun. The sensors flipped from green to red at 20:41, no alarms, no lights, just one soft blink on the control panel Marie had mounted above the fireplace. It glowed like a warning only she could read. She didn't gasp, didn't flinch. She just stood up from the couch, tightened the straps on her vest, and said, "It's time." I jolted out of sleep like I'd been dunked in ice. My hands scrambled for the flashlight, useless. She was already halfway dressed, boots on, earpiece in. Will came barreling down the hallway, hoodie half, zip but focused, no hesitation, no groaning, just readiness. That alone told me how much had changed. Marie was moving through the house now, not in panic but with rhythm. She hit every checkpoint she'd trained us on, locked the garage hatch, checked the crawl space vent, passed out headsets. Her breath was calm, focused, familiar. It was terrifying not because she was scared, but because she wasn't. Then we heard it, a deep, throaty hum rolled through the air, low and mechanical, bigger, heavier like a street sweeper loaded for war. Marie paused, head tilted, counting beats with her fingers. Sound suppression vehicle. 2 axles modified tread, no sarin. Will whispered. "Do HOAs usually come with tanks?" "Not tanks," she said. "Personnel intimidation units. No ammo, just fee out front." The porch exploded with light, but not from our system. Mobile flood units had been rolled in, tripod mounted, aimed squarely at our windows. Then they arrived, 5 figures in a triangle formation, boots moving in sync, every step thudding like a verdict. Vests, black visors, no badges, just darkness and breath. I felt it in my spine. This wasn't a scare tactic anymore. This was a raid. Marie ducked low and whispered into her mic, visual confirmation on breach team. Phase 1 lock, fall back, initiate passive resist. We slid to the crawl space nook. I couldn't hear my own breath over the pounding in my chest. And then the doorbell rang once. Not a knock, just that cold, perfect ding, a ritual, a command. They didn't say a word. They didn't have to. Mary didn't answer. Instead, the yard roared to life. The sprinklers fired, but instead of water, jets of finely sifted flour erupted into the air, a blinding white storm bursting from all directions. The lead two intruders staggered back, coughing, shields up. Will gasped. She actually did it. Marie dropped from the roof like a storm cloud. She moved through the haze and detonated a flashbang loaded with marbles and pressure caps. The noise cracked so hard the windows shook. One soldier tripped over the hose line. Another screamed as a rigged net caught his feet. And in the distance over a speaker, Karen's voice poured out, "This community demands peace. You've refused unity. You've escalated. This is your final invitation to return to compliance." Calm, so calm it chilled me more than shouting would have. Marie whispered, "False flag confirmed." Proceeding to phase 2 from the roses, a garden gnome tipped sideways, smoke. Real smoke this time, thick, chemical military, grade fog. She'd brewed in sealed canning jars and sealed with waterproof timers. Visibility dropped to feet. That's when I moved, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't sit back and watch anymore. I ran to the back door, slammed the trigger on our hose rig. A blast of chalk and compressed air blinded the last man standing. He dropped his gear and rolled backward into the garden. And then he stood in the doorway, breathing hard, holding the tennis ball Intel dummy from training. He looked at me once, then at Marie, and threw it. The dummy landed right beneath Karen's mobile speaker rig. Boom, a firework of glitter and a shriek of strobe lights went off in every direction. The squad stumbled. Karen's broadcast cut out mid-sentence. Marie stood tall in the center of it all. She raised her flare gun and fired at once into the sky, 3 sharp whistles a signal. And then the block woke up, windows creaked open. Porch lights clicked on, curtains shifted. One by one, our neighbors began to see what was happening. Phones came out, someone started recording. A woman across the street muttered, "Oh my God." An old man sat on his porch and said, almost with a chuckle, "Finally." Someone else whispered, "Is that Marie?" And for a real second, no one moved, not Karen's squad, not us. The illusion broke. Then the soldiers fell back one by one, retreating under the weight of eyes and lenses. No shots fired, just shame. And in that silence, standing ankle deep in our ruined garden, Marie finally exhaled. But she didn't smile because she knew this wasn't over. We'd won the battle, but not the story. And Karen, she was already typing the next chapter. We thought exposure would break her. That once people saw her strike squad face planting in our rose bushes. Once the footage went live, a shaky but damning. Once the neighbors peeked out of their windows and saw flashbangs and Karen's voice on loudspeaker. We thought that would be the end. It wasn't. By 9 hours a.m., the next morning, Karen had already won the day. We woke up to a neighborhood-wide email memo. Subject line, clarification following last night's emergency simulation. Body, thank you to all residents for remaining calm during last night's scheduled training event. HOA Safety Oversight engaged in a pre-approved simulation in response to a reported disturbance. All footage being circulated is unauthorized and does not reflect context or protocol. Please report unverified content to your block's Digital Harmony representative. Digital Harmony representative. She invented a new title overnight. Marie read the email full, twice silent. Will leaned over the screen. She's saying it was a what? Drill? Simulated response, Marie murmured. She's not denying the footage, she's just editing it. And then it started. People who had peeked through their blinds last night, now they were glancing away when we passed. The dad down the street who'd once shared a garage door opener repair tip. He suddenly forgot my name. Our next door neighbor, the one who gave Will graduation cookies last year, crossed to the other sidewalk when she saw us walk out for the mail. And the casserole dish Marie had lent the Jenkins family, it came back in a plastic grocery bag, unwashed, no note, just silence. She's gaslighting the entire block, I said, pacing the living room. Marie opened the HOA site. There it was, a new bulletin board thread. Unnecessary chaos at lot 36. HOA takes action. Post after post, each more twisted than the last. Terrifying noises last night. Kids woke up.